Next thing we should talk about is when do you straighten out your wheel or steering wheel when you're making a turn. So if I'm going into this turn to the right here, I am going to start letting the steering wheel go back to center before I am onto this road. So I'm still pointed slightly to the left before I let go of the steering wheel. Now I'm not going to let go like this in real life, but I'm just letting go so you can see what happens to the steering wheel. The car will want to do most of the work for me. What you just saw happen is very speed dependent. So if I were, let's say, here, and now I move really slowly, I'm going to end up going onto this road, but the steering wheel isn't correcting itself back to center. So this is why sometimes I'll tell students to, let the car do the unwinding back to center, and because they're moving so slow, possibly because they're a little bit scared initially, they see that it's not doing it. They're like, well, what's going on? I thought it was gonna undo itself back to center. And I'm like, yes, it will do it if you're moving at a reasonable speed. So if you remember, we talked about making these turns at about 10-15 kilometers an hour. So if I go into this turn, and right about here, if I kind of let it slide back in my hand, the steering wheel will want to go back to center. So let me show you this one more time here. I'm not quite on this road yet, but I'm gonna let it kind of go back to center. So the car will help me out as long as I've given it a little bit of speed to work with. So let's try this going to the left here. Right about here. If I let go, the car will try to unwind itself back to center. But if I do this going to the left very slowly, and then I wait here, and I now let the car move really slowly, it won't really want to help me out. And if it does, it will only get me there so far before I would then have to kind of correct it back to center. Now, over time, what you want to do is, rather than let go completely, you want to control the speed at which it's going back using the palm of your hand for friction. So if I'm going into this left turn here, as I'm here, I am kind of letting the steering wheel rub against my palm so that I can control how fast the steering wheel unwinds back to center. So one more time, going into this left turn here, I'm going left, right, and this is where I'm thinking about, you know what, I need to let the steering wheel start sliding. So if I let it go now, I can stop whenever I feel like, oh no, I'm not quite there. I need it to still straighten out a bit more, because sometimes the car will straighten out sooner than I want it. So for example, here, if I just let go at an arbitrary point, well, maybe the point that I've chosen wasn't correct, and now I've not kind of ended up on the road. So that's why you want to use a little bit of friction, or let the steering wheel slide in your hand a bit. So one more time, if I were to show you going into this turn, right about here, I'm using this hand to kind of control the speed at which it goes back. And I'm looking in front of me, right? This is all dependent on what am I seeing in front of me. Am I straight on this road, or do I still want to hold that steering wheel in that position until I am? So here, right, as I'm looking in front of me, I can gauge what I need the steering wheel to do.